Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am JM DeFogie, and this is a show where we just hang out. We talk about games, role-playing games, board games, tabletop games, miniature games, games that we love. And that's really kind of the focus of the show. We're always going to talk about things that we at Iconic love. It's not going to ever be a let's tear something else down. We're really of the philosophy that we should be building each other and building up things that we love. So today we're continuing a nice long look at Savage Worlds. And today this is a question that came up on the Discord. I believe Tinker Hellraiser put this up to the chat and wanted me to talk about chases. So we talk about how fun and fast and furious Savage Worlds is. And morning, Ian. And this applies to chases. I love that the first thing that the chase rules say, you can find these in the Suede rulebook under chases and vehicles. We're not going to cover vehicles today. That's going to be a completely separate look. But one of the things I love about Savage Worlds is they're always going to try and give you the simplest option first. And so it says, hey, if you just want to narrate a cool chase scene where the villains catch up to or the heroes catch up to the villains or vice versa, use the quick encounter rules. That's the simplest way to go about running a chase. But if this is a high intensity, big impact scene, something that you want to be the focus of an hour of gameplay, half hour to an hour of gameplay, then let's use the chase rules. And so what you'll need for the chase rules is you're actually going to need 2 action decks. So the current, one for initiative and then one to lay out as your path, an abstract indication of where everyone is at in relation to each other. When we get to the end of it, I'll talk about some ways that I think I would like to possibly expand or even change the way chase rules work to make things a little bit more complicated. So when you decide to use chase rules, one thing that's going to govern a lot of the chase is what's called the maneuver skill. And the maneuver skill is mainly the skill that you're going to use to either flee from your pursuers or catch up to your quarry. In the case of airplanes, spaceships, that sort of thing, you're going to use piloting. Whereas if you're on foot, you're going to use athletics. Use some common sense. If it's a horseback race, it's probably going to be riding. If you're in boats, if you're flying in a superhero game, you've got different skill options to use. So when you set up your chase, what they recommend is putting out at least 9 cards. You're going to deal from the action deck, shuffle and deal the action deck, and deal out a linear path that is going to represent the distance between people and the distance to the end of the chase. They kind of give an example of 9 is probably a good number, but you can always add more as needed. So the people starting on the farthest end from the farthest card away from the end, so the other end of the line, is going to be the people who are pursuing. You're going to set out the people they are chasing at a relative distance based off either the narrative or what feels right. Now, what's neat about this system is, remember, it's an abstract system. So every card, or every position, if you will, represents some unit of distance based off of how fast or how large the chase is going to be. So for, foot chases, they're saying that each card is about 5-inch increment, which puts it at, let me do my math. 5 inches would be 15 feet. Is that right? 20 inches is 40 yards. Yeah. So about 10 feet. And as you move back and forth along this line, you can do anything you want on your turn, right? So first of all, once that is set up, pawns, miniatures, chips, something to represent where everyone is in relationship to each other. Then you deal out your action cards sort of quasi-normally. This is also up to the GM. Essentially, each unit gets an initiative card. And what do I mean by that? Well, in a foot race, it probably makes sense that everyone has a card. In a car chase, each vehicle will get a card, and everyone in that vehicle gets to act on their card's turn. Now, when you go through this, the first thing is everyone has to make a free maneuver check. This is just to maintain position, gain position on, or increase the distance between you and your pursuers. Most of these are used by the change action maneuver. Morning, Padre. So the change action maneuver is either a free action, usually by the person piloting or each individual person if they're all on their own unique craft. If you succeed at this, you get to move 1 card increment, 2 on a raise. If you take your entire turn, if you take your action to only change position, so that's a free action. I can change position and still shoot or board or engage in fisticuffs or throw an obstacle or change directions, take my normal action without penalty. If I focus on change position, well, then I get a +2 bonus. And then whoever's got the fastest vehicle gets bonuses from there as well. And that's basically it. If you catch up to your pursuer, congratulations. Or if you catch up to the people you are pursuing, the scene changes. Do you get into a fight? Is the chase over? Is it now boarding actions? You know, however the GM wants to run that. If you're being chased and you make it to the end of the cards, sweet, you've escaped. That is chases in a nutshell. I realized it was going to be a short video, so we're going to talk a little bit about some other things going on here. So, for example, there's some special rules, there's some special maneuvers. We're not going to get into the special maneuvers. Check it out. Go check out Suede. If you haven't checked out Suede yet, stop listening to this video and go to the link that you'll find in the bottom of the video when it's on YouTube. Go purchase Suede. It's a great PDF. It's a great toolkit to see how different subsystems can interact, but also it's a fun game. We run it every Tuesday night on Crucible of Realms on the Iconic Production channel. We did just talk about the chase deck, Padre, but we're also going to talk about what happens. 2 other special things that come up are bumps and complication. Now, a bump is something that comes up due to a complication or an action that another player takes, where you might lose position. Sometimes the opposition gets to choose whether you are bumped forward or backward along the chase line. Sometimes you the GM may decide that for you. But what's really cool about this is the complications. So when we're watching movies, take the Indiana Jones franchise. They are known for some of their great chases. The Fast and the Furious franchise, Star Wars. We all can cinematically see the chase that we're trying to emulate when we talk about here. When your initiative card comes up a club, you should just know when you're playing Savage Worlds, the clubs are usually when something bad happens. If your initiative card is a club, a complication has come up. Now, this is the one thing that I want to that sometimes takes a little bit to wrap your head around. If your initiative card comes up a club, then your unit or group... oh, you're talking about this, Padre. We have not got to the chase deck yet from Savage Pathfinder, but we will. Then something bad happens, potentially bad happens to you or your group or your vehicle. Now, what specifically happens that is bad is triggered off of the card your token is currently on. So if Padre draws a club as the vehicle driver in our example, and he is on the 3 of Hearts club, then if he fails a maneuver check, that vehicle is bumped, and it's bumped in a direction that the opposition would find favorable. If he had been instead on a Joker, then there's a modification to the test, and the character or vehicle is bumped up to 2 cards. And because this is potentially beneficial for him and he succeeds, he could be bumped up. So there are some ways to kind of maneuver this around to Again, it's an abstract resolution system. We're not counting squares. We're not counting my vehicle is this much faster than your vehicle. We're not necessarily planning as the GM a ton of obstacles. What we are doing is we're trying to replicate kind of fast and furiously how we can quickly and at least in the theater of the mind show relative distances, how to move around, that sort of thing. I would love to run a chase scene where when I'll say, hey, this line is 12 cards long, but I'm only going to put out the first 5 cards. When somebody gets to the 5th card, maybe the paths branch, and I've got a little map of how many cards. So somebody can make a notice roll and go, all right, this path seems to be the shorter path. Maybe it branches out into 3 paths. Maybe the people you were pursuing split off into multiple ways, and now the people chasing have to decide which path is spreading out to kind of give a little bit more abstract nature. But we've all seen those movies. I think of the Mission Impossible movies where you're chasing a group of people and they hit a street and they scatter. And so now the heroes, instead of chasing them as a pack, have to decide who is going after each person they're pursuing. I think it's a fun way. It could be a fun way to do it. We may try this in a episode of Crucible of Realms. I've got to figure out how to visually represent this well. But you can play around with the chase deck in that manner. So Ian asked, do you think you could convert cards to dice for other systems like 5e? I mean, I don't think you would have to convert it to dice. I think you could use this system in 5e very easily. Lay out cards. Again, everybody should have a deck of cards there. And just switch the systems from skill checks to proficiency checks. You probably got everything you need right there to run it in 5e. Again, the nice thing about mechanics is you can't really trademark mechanics. You can just trademark the ruling of the mechanics. So I would say try it as is with proficiencies. I think it would make a fun mechanic to use in, say, a gritty sort of sword and sorcery-esque city adventure as you go running around the city. Look at that. A bot will definitely get that taken care of. So Padre brought up the Quick Chase deck. Now the Quick Chase deck exists for Savage Pathfinder. You can get the box on Pinnacle's website. I'll put a link in the show notes to this. And essentially what it allows you to do is it is a standard deck of cards. Up in the corner, 54 cards with jokers. But each card has different text on it, so it expands the complications and some of the other rules. It has on them, each card has suit, gives you kind of a title for a narrative clue of what may be going on there, and a chase modifier that if you're on that card, it modifies your roll for the turn. And then if you have something that comes up, you've got a little bit of mechanical effects. So Mighty Leap, make an athletics check at -2 as a free action. If you have a participant who, if you're successful, somebody has to discard their card. So essentially you get a handful of these cards. Each wild card, our group of extra gets a chase card. You get extras if you are faster, and you get to place them down in front of you. So it modifies the chase rules. I like this, Padre. I haven't actually had a chance to dig into it and play with it. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. We have a lot of May the 4th and May the 5th jokes going on in the chat. I may have to do an entire thing on this Quick Chase deck, Padre. I was just going to mention it, but the fact that you have brought this to my attention, I'm really interested in this. Lying in wait, your first trait roll this turn is made at a +2. So that's chases. Oh, you haven't had a chance to use it either. I'm going to add this to the behind the screen. Do an in-depth look at it because I saw that I had it. I hadn't looked at it, and I was just going to mention it. But I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. So let's see here. Yeah, nope, that's the same. Chases last 5 rounds if you use these. You choose one card from your hand and place it down in front of you. Everybody reveals the cards. If the prey has the most... Oh, you get chase tokens. The prey has the most chase tokens. They escape. Interesting. So it actually works out as... it changes chases into what seems to be kind of a more dramatic task resolution system, as each side is trying to get tokens. Fascinating. That's the thing I love about Savage Worlds, and we've talked about it. From a design perspective, the core of the game is so simple. But what it allows is it allows a variety of subsystems to be used. You can increase or decrease the complexity of any given situation as you want. Padre, I will add using the narrative chase deck, and we may even do an example. I'll see if I can't get a camera set up and lay it out so we can actually see them as we interact with them. I appreciate it. Tink says Cinco de Mayo has been rebanded as Revenge of the 5th. Does anybody remember Cinco de Cuatro? Let's see if anybody remembers or gets that reference. So, also, big thanks to Tinker Hellraiser, who, if you are following us on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, has been putting together some of our sweet new marketing images that we're actually going to use as title cards for these videos on YouTube. So this was a short video. Wanted to talk about Chase. I know that some people are like, these seem more complicated than they actually are. And I think part of it is because they're paired in the rules with the vehicle rules. But if you think about it as an abstract system to adjudicate distance and actually cause people to think about, hey, what is the most cinematic thing I could be doing at this time? As opposed to, hey, make an athletics check. All right, I beat your athletics check. I'm pulling away. So again, you kind of have, much like combat, you have a spectrum of rules to use for chases. In my example right there, the simplest one would be an opposed athletics check. Does the person get away or not? If you want to describe the narrative of chases, but want to ensure one side or the other is more likely to succeed, use a quick encounter. If you want the tactical maneuverability, jump in to using the chase rules in Suede. And if you want something even cooler or something different, wait till we review the narrative chase cards from Savage Pathfinder. So, that's what we had for today. We'll be back next week with more Savage Worlds discussion and another episode of Crucible of Realms. This last week's episode was interesting. The group is no longer in the city. They're on a strange plane, slowly being consumed by the void, and they're leading 200 refugees up the side of a mountain in hopes there is a gate back to the city at the top of it. And we'll see if they get up the mountain next time. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. If you like what we do, you like who we are, please consider following here on Twitch, subscribing on YouTube, or jumping over to patreon.com/iconicproduction and joining our patronage. We have videos that go out to patrons every month. You get early access to our live play of 13th Age 2nd Edition podcast that we're putting together. I just got the next episode sent out to patrons. I am pretty excited about it. Not only is it going to be a fun look at the system, but we are also doing some audio engineering, changing some voices, adding some sound effects. Should be a lot of fun. We do have a question on this month's patronage. If you're a patron of Iconic Production, go over and comment on it, or comment in the Discord channel. Would you prefer longer actual play episodes or more of them? I'm trying to find a good sweet spot between listenability and maintaining our every other week schedule. We may be able to do more than every other week if we're keeping to about 20 to 30 minutes. So let us know. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for joining this Behind the Screen. I will see you all next Tuesday where we're going to talk more about Savage Worlds. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I'll see you later.